Good morning and welcome to The Art of Composition. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. I was talking this morning a little bit about some of the video lectures that I see online and articles that have been written about composition in the past. And like I said, they always fall into two camps, the rule of thirds and the golden section. My biggest argument with a lot of these videos and articles is that they never really talk about diagonal lines. They're always talking about horizontal and vertical divisions in a composition. And that's fine, but it's important to understand that a good composition is made up of diagonal lines as well. And I thought I would continue on with my video lecture series, or my new video lecture series on the book, The Art of Composition by Mikhail Jacobs. I decided to take another look at this book and create a new series of videos. I have a lot of videos on this book you can find on my website, but it's interesting to look back after you've learned enough information about something, but you're always looking at things a little bit differently depending on how much time has passed. But this example is in the book and it's designed in a root 2. But one thing I want to point out is that this composition, it's made up of horizontal and vertical divisions, but the diagonal lines are critical as well. Let me just show you what I mean by that. You have these diagonal lines being played out right here. And I believe this one is played out as well. I'll have to look at the grid. But the diagonal lines are important, even in a simple illustration like this. So let me show you what I'm talking about. What you see on my screen is the same illustration in a root 2. I put a root 2 grid on it. And a few things I'll just point out from the start. You have this diagonal line being played out in the fences that run along here. You have this diagonal line being played out, and that's following the armature diagonal line right here with the smoke and this curvilinear diagonal line. It's being played out there. You have the rooftop of this building right here using the armature, and then you have this rooftop right here being played out. So you also have, let me continue on with this diagonal line here, you have this being played out here as well. So, and actually to go into a little bit more detail, you also have this one being played out because you're following this path along with the roof and it's going down, and you have this diamond shape, this triangular shape right here in this simple illustration. I mean, really, it is simple, but my point is today that even in a simple illustration, diagonals are important. But while I'm looking at this, let me just show a few vertical and horizontal divisions as well. In dynamic symmetry, you can break down root rectangles to create smaller versions of themselves. And I did a few video lectures of this last week. You can check them out on my art highlights page. And what I'm doing right now is I'm isolating one of these root 2s in this grid. And I'm doing this in blue so that you can see which root 2 I'm talking about. And I'm going to break it down. And when I say breakdown, I mean create smaller versions of itself. When I just drop two diagonal lines in this smaller root 2 right here, notice in the center I have a vertical division, and that is lining up with the separation of these buildings there. Lands right on that vertical line right there. But also notice in this eye right here where these two diagonal lines meet, I have another vertical, and that's running down the side of the chimney. Right there. But also notice here when I drop that diagonal line, it's also following the angle in this roof. It's following the angle, and also in this diagonal line there. The artist is repeating diagonal lines that are derived from the armature. And of course you have that same diagonal line being played out here. You have one here and here and here and here. Those diagonal lines are being derived from that armature, and the same thing with this roof here. It's the same diagonal line. This is how dynamic symmetry works. Let me see if I can find anything else with this. If I break this one down, I'm just curious. If I break this root 2 into a smaller root 2, this gives me, try that again, this gives me this vertical right here, okay? In the middle of this root 2 that I just created, I can drop a vertical where those two diagonal lines intersect. Well, guess what? It gives me the vertical in that house right there. This is how this works. I'm not going to drag this out today, but my point is today is that diagonal lines in a composition are just as important as the vertical and horizontal divisions, but also the more diagonal lines you add when you break it down, you get more divisions, horizontal and vertical. I hope this makes sense. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it, as always.